I call today's meeting of the Zoning Bylaw Study Committee to order. We have with us today Scott Lambiase, Tim
Former
Travers, former selectman, former chair.
Former chairman of the committee.
Yeah, you got ousted. Mary Beth Carter and myself, Richard Rosen. So we have a number of things to discuss on today's agenda. First being the change in the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. This is pretty lengthy. Can you tell us, Mary Beth, what changes, what he's done?
Actually, this isn't a change. This is a completely new bylaw, and I can certainly read the purpose of this.
So wait, are they getting rid of the old bylaw?
I don't believe that they have had a wetlands protection bylaw.
So they just follow the DEP
State?
regs at this point? And not add
I believe that they probably have gone by the
the
state
regs.
law, state regs, and then added things when they were acting on someone's proposal. They probably added some stuff. A lot of towns do that, like Abington does that.
Yeah, but we always had supplemental regs
I-
that were codified.
For some reason, I thought that we had a
Right.
bylaw.
That's
But
why
if not-
this is quite lengthy.
Yeah, it's
This
lengthy.
is the
So,
whole,
I mean, it's fine. You got to have it, and it's fine. And I'm sure it's to protect. It's going to do what it's going to do. But is there anything that you want to talk about with it?
no, I've read the whole thing through, but if you'd like, I can certainly read the purpose, just so that we have that on record.
Sure. Why don't you read the purpose?
Okay.
Oh yeah, because we never had stuff about vernal pools and stuff like that before.
Under the purpose, 251-1, the purpose of this bylaw, which is the Wetlands Protection Bylaw, is to protect the wetlands, water resources, flood-prone areas, and adjoining upland areas in the town of Whitman by controlling activities deemed by the Conservation Commission likely to have a significant or cumulative effect on resource area values and areas under the control of the Conservation Commission, including but not limited to the following: public or private water supply, groundwater supply, flood control, erosion and sedimentation control, storm damage prevention, including storm flowage, water quality, prevention and control of pollution, fisheries, wildlife habitat, rare species, habitat including rare plant and animal species, agriculture, aquaculture, and recreation values deemed important to the community, collectively the resource area values protected by this law. So this is quite lengthy, and
Looking at it, it looks very good, and I want to give Ed and the committee,
Edwinette, yes.
Eddie Winnett, who is fairly new, I believe, to the committee. Give him a lot of credit for putting this together. I mean, it looks good, and it covers all the areas that need to be covered, and it also provides fines for people that are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
It does.
So I think we should commend him for doing this. Is there a motion to approve this the way it's written?
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Well done.
You did a nice job. And Chapter 7, Section 7-9 of the General Bylaw. Mary Beth, do you want to explain that to us?
Sure. So before you have the current bylaw and also the amendment here. So the original bylaw, and this is under Boards, Commission, and Committees 7-11, Article 3, Residency Requirements. I'll read 7.8 first, and that's town residency required. No person shall be appointed to or serve on any town board, commission, or committee unless such person resides in the town or establishes and maintains residency within the town within 1 year of appointment. Any person serving as a member of a board, commission, or committee who, during the term of office for which appointed, ceases to be a resident, the town shall immediately be deemed to have vacated such membership. So 7.9 is applicability. And the original bylaw reads, the provisions of this bylaw shall not apply to ex officio members, the town administrator, the assistant town administrator, or non-voting members. Any non-resident members of a board, commission, or committee holding such membership at the time of this bylaw becomes effective shall be exempt until the expiration of the member's current term. I'll now read you the amendment, and the main change is where the original deals with the town administrator, the assistant town administrator. So the amendment reads, the provision of this bylaw shall not apply to ex officio members, town employees, or non-voting members. Any non-resident members of a board, commission, or committee holding such membership at the time of this bylaw becomes effective shall be exempt until the expiration of a member's current term. So,
Is that okay with you guys?
Okay with me.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0 unanimous. All right. Now, let's skip over the smart growth for a minute,
okay.
and let's go to the ADUs. Is it my understanding that these came from the zoning board?
John Gold.
John Goldrosen,
Correct.
right?
Absolutely.
And he prepared these?
Yes.
They already went to the Attorney General and
They
they've
did.
come back? Yeah.
Correct.
So this is what's come back, the strike-throughs that we're looking at.
That is correct.
And then he did the bold in response to the strike-through?
That is correct. Just to clean it up, just so that there's no.
John did the bold, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So the AG's office did approve it. They sent it back to us last year. It's in our bylaws, but with the strike-throughs, and John wants to just make it very clear, clean that up, so that there's no questions with anybody going forward applying for ADUs.
I have a-
Does it go back to the Attorney General now? If
I don't.
we-
Yeah, I think it does. It would have to go back for them to see that we approve what they said.
Right.
Well, but now we're going to approve these caveats.
It's going to have to go back to them.
It will.
Correct.
We have to, this will go to town meeting.
Yeah.
And then it will also follow the same process through the clerk's office to the AG and
Yeah.
come back to us.
And with John as an attorney,
I trust them.
I try, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
especially John.
and he's been in the appeals board since a long time. Just curious, do
Probably
we?
sits next to him.
He wouldn't know who he was anyway.
I know who he is.
So, just curious, have we had any or many ADU applications in Whitman?
So I believe we're starting to get those now. Yes, I believe we've had some. I don't have an exact count.
What about Abington?
They were just, same thing, they were just starting to come in. I think in Kingston we have maybe a half a dozen that are sitting there.
I was literally just reading an article in Bank and Tradesman about a couple of weeks ago. It was on the front page. And I think last year or 2 years ago, there was like 30 in the state.
In the whole state.
Yeah, and now there's like 1,400
yeah.
applications that have been.
Yeah, I think there's an application in for a property on Alden Street at our next meeting.
Yeah,
Well, I'm looking to do one over on Ellis Ave, maybe, depending on how it goes.
And they took that family requirement out, so it doesn't have to be.
yeah. That was the big caveat, that it had to be a relative, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, the state probably
Correct.
took that out real quick.
Right.
Defeated the whole
A lot more housing.
I don't know how
for
anybody
Elton.
thought that was.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. I mean, the zoning board here used to have a heart attack when someone wanted to do an in-law. I mean, that was always a big to-do. All right, is there a motion to approve the wording change?
So moved.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, unanimous.
So, just out of curiosity, where is it now then? It's in limbo. What was advertised is what is in effect until,
Correct.
you know.
So they did approve it with these
But with these
strike-throughs.
strike-throughs,
So
so
you
the
have-
strike-throughs are in effect until it comes back and gets
Correct.
voted again.
Correct, with the clarifying language.
All right, so the next item is Smart Growth Overlay District. We have a gentleman with us. Come on up here.
Jason DeRozier.
Jason DeRocha from OCPC.
Correct.
So I guess there's nothing better than to have the guy that wrote it sit here and tell us about it.
I agree.
So basically, we're still using. Where did the actual bylaw come from? Is it the state's bylaw?
Yeah, the state has a model bylaw that was adapted for Whitman's.
Right.
You don't need
And you're here to just talk about the map. The bylaw and the map.
I mean, I'm here because I saw it on your agenda, and so I figured I would just come by just to listen and to see how that was going, as it received a hearing date, planning board hearing date for April, and so I'm just following it through the process.
So, once upon a time, long ago, I suggested that the town adopt 40R because at the time, and I don't know, I've lost track of that whole thing over the years, it was some real money. And it's limited to what we could do in Whitman anyway, with respect to the railroad tracks.
Yep.
And I had suggested take the tracks, go so many feet each side of it, do your map, and if you can do something, great. So, do you want to explain to us the map?
Yep.
You did the same thing. You took the tracks.
Essentially. And
he
you
took your old map.
I took my old map.
I was going to refer to colors, but it's in black and white. So I'll do my best
Budget
to
cuts.
explain it. But so what we did, because there was very limited development opportunity anywhere other than this area, which is also where the MBTA Communities Overlay District sits.
Correct.
We thought pretty early on, and there's a small working group of folks that were part of this process. Bob Kimball from the planning board, Justin Evans, John Goldrosen, and a couple of other folks who sort of like viewed a list of a number of sort of areas in town that could be sort of maybe pursued for 40R. This is the one that worked out the best. And so the parcels that also have the dots in them are parcels that are overlaid with MBTA community zoning. There's a couple of parcels. It's 185 Franklin. That's not part of the MBTA Communities District. When I submitted the preliminary eligibility application for EOHLC to essentially approve the area for 40R to proceed with zoning bylaw and the map for town meeting, it was told to me pretty late in the process that MBTA community zoning counts as existing zoned units. So any units that could be built as part of MBTA communities do not exist, what's the word I'm looking for? Qualify for zoning incentive payments. And so one of the benefits, and I believe one of the reasons why Whitman decided to pursue 40R zoning was the sort of financial benefits that come from
There
it.
was financial benefits 15 years ago.
So what is
There was
the-
some big money back in those days.
Yeah, and there's still money today, except the caveat there is that the parcels and the dots, you don't get those zoning incentive payments. So you would get zoning, sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, so if you're in the overlay and you're the MBTA and or maybe you're in both districts,
Yep.
why would you choose one over the other, like the R district, which I think is better for the town? But if you're the developer, is there incentive to actually take that? Is there better density? Because the MBTA offers some amazing density.
Yeah, I mean, so the work group that I was working with wanted to stay as close to the MBTA community zoning densities and uses as possible. There's a couple of benefits there's more benefits from a town standpoint to try to point developers towards building within 40R than MBTA communities. However, if I'm a developer building under MBTA communities or 40R, if I'm looking at this, the process is a little more streamlined for 40R. In terms of the as-of-right components of them. And so from a developer standpoint, a streamlined process.
Well, that was the whole point of the MBTA community was a streamlined process.
Yes, but MBTA communities was to zone for multifamily housing and not have to build any, right? A lot of towns pursued.
From the developer's point of view, though, he should be able to go in a streamlined process through MBTA community. If he's in that district, it should be by right also for some pretty high density. So again, why is it easier for him to do a 40R?
Because
And I hope it is.
it is. I don't have the bylaw. I don't have both bylaws in front of me in terms of the
MBTA one?
The MBTA one. I have it on my phone, but
But you're saying it is.
yeah, there are some incentives that make it easier for developers to develop under 40R than it is MBTA.
The fact of the matter is, there is almost no property in the town of Whitman that will fall under 40R. I don't care what map you draw. I don't care how far it is from the railroad tracks. There are literally only a couple pieces of property. I mean, if you go down South Avenue and you have the railroad tracks and you head south, everything on the right side of the tracks is the marsh. It's bare meadow. And if you go up Franklin Street, almost everything on Franklin Street is developed. There are a couple of small parcels. And I'll tell you that many years ago, because the zoning now at the front is residential, and you go back, I don't know how many feet, I forget, it's been a while. Behind it is zone industrial. And many, many years ago, you probably don't remember, you do, Swenson's Farm, and you do.
Oh, I do.
Was
I
zone
worked there.
Yeah, it was zone industrial, and somebody came in and wanted to build an industrial building, and the neighbors went berserk. So they wouldn't approve it. It didn't get approved. It ultimately became a subdivision. So forget about the rest of Franklin Street. What you really have is Pond Street. That's about it. I mean, there might be a couple of parcels, depending on how far out the map goes. I mean, I think it's great. It's beneficial to the town because I forget how much it was a permit or a unit back in the day, but it was substantial to the town. So you don't know what it is now, right?
In terms of the dollar figure. So there are two and a half, three payments that are associated with 40R. First, the zoning incentive payment. You get a payment from the state for the number of units that are sort of buildable within your 40R district. When we were sort of starting this exercise, it was around $350,000 just by adopting the 40R district because of the number of units. But because the state has not been forthcoming, I'll say at best, in terms of like how MBTA communities and 40R sort of relate to each other, is that those count as existing zoned units. And so I redid the calculations, and it depends on sort of like which parcels are developable versus not. I'm still working that out. But you could be looking at somewhere between $10,000 and $75,000 because most of the district exists within the 40 MBTA communities. Now, there's also
penalized for doing.
there's also
what they made
bonus
us do.
density payments that are payments for every building permit that gets pulled. And those payments come whether it's an MBTA community's lot or not. And so if you do full build out of the district, which essentially is not feasible at this time because there's other buildings that exist within this context, you could be looking at recouping most of that $300,000 to $350,000. The two parcels that are largely probably most developable within this entire district is 66 Pond Street, and there is a developer who was before the Zoning Board of Appeals last week looking at that, and they didn't know about 40R, and they're interested in sort of looking at that. And then 185 Franklin, the reason why that one was added was because there's a developer who, through conversation with John Goldrosen, indicated that he was interested in doing a 40B there, and decided to wait until the 40R sort of process potentially moved forward because it would be easier for him, and he would prefer to build under a 40R scenario than a 40B scenario.
Do you know what the? I'm sorry, Mary Beth. What the reimbursement per unit is?
For 40S?
Yeah, 40R.
Oh, so
3,000.
you mean in terms of so?
Yeah, the way
So
that
it's
it used to be-
$3,000 for every building.
Okay,
permit.
that's
sorry.
every unit.
Every
Every
permit.
building permit is per unit.
Per
yeah.
unit.
Yep.
So it isn't like
That's
if you have
good money.
100 units,
Mhm.
they $300,000.
Yep.
So I mean, it's real money because back then they were looking at 66 Pond Street, and there was also the Regal Building, which there was a proposal at one point to tear it down and build several buildings, but that has a 21E problem. It has a spillway under it, and someone bought it, and I don't think you'll ever see residential there. But that was, I mean, this is serious money. If someone's gonna build on it anyway, the town might as well
Yeah,
collect.
next, a few hundred grand.
I
with
mean,
it.
Just for the third sort of bucket of money, but it's more reimbursements, and I'm going to present on this at the hearing in April. Under 40R, there's a bucket of money within 40S that reimburses school districts for impacts on schools based on. So if you have X number of units and families move in versus individuals, and it brings lots of children into the school system you're not prepared for, there's a state bucket that provides the reimbursements for 40S. Now, you can't actually realize that until you understand sort of what bedrooms are being built, what the context of these developments are. But at least, and I did do a search on sort of communities that sort of got reimbursed for 40S and what those numbers look like and what women might be able to
Haverhill have a successful program with this years ago.
My guess is that like 66 Pond Street, won't be a lot of families. None of these projects are family orientated. I mean, people always go, oh, Paradise Gardens, 44, you're going to bring in 44 kids. Yeah, maybe
We don't allow it.
3, literally.
But many school systems across the region are experiencing deficits, and so
Really?
most of the students. I mean,
Ours is only like, never mind, we won't go down that
well,
road
East
today.
there's a number, and I've worked on a number of housing production plans where I've actually seen like hundreds of sort of like students leaving the district over 30 years. And so a lot of students who come into the school are actually getting it to their historic and traditional numbers. I haven't looked at Whitman yet.
So is the
but
school reimbursement a one-time thing, or is that
Nope.
continue on?
it continues until you don't need it anymore.
Really?
That's in
Essentially.
addition to the
Because it's a
3,000.
reimbursement.
I bet it's a very difficult threshold.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
bet you have to have a significant amount of units before. And like you said, they're gonna look at enrollment numbers.
Of course.
Well, the significant number of students, which then triggers the reimbursement. But
Yeah.
It's not going to be an easy process to.
No,
I think it's great.
but it's great if they.
I mean, in 1975, OCPC predicted that in the year 2000, so Whitman had a population of 12,300 in 1975. And OCPC predicted by the year 2000, we'd have 25,000 people. You won't have 25,000 people in this town ever. So now in 2026, what's the population? We've gone from 12,500 to a staggering 15,000. So, and people don't understand how that can possibly be. It's actually fairly simple. I mean, back in the day, I hate to say this, but all you Irish Catholics had 6 or 7 kids in a family.
guilty.
How many I mean, seriously, that had a lot to do with it. You got to know your audience. But I mean, and everybody had 5, 6, 7 kids, and now they have 1 or 2, and and a lot of these people aren't staying. The 2 that are born now instead of the 7 aren't staying in Whitman. I mean, I've torn down a number of houses. I don't know what the ratio is to the amount that I've built, but you tear a lot of them down. But I mean, that's
And a lot of those homes have become
Empty.
single-family homes, and now 2- and 3-family homes. That
empty
years
nesters,
ago
so-
were single-family homes.
Yeah, so that's part of it. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, this has already been referred to the planning board, and I believe that the tentative planning board hearing date is April 14th. Is that
that's
what
correct.
you have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, over in the auditorium.
So if we vote to approve this is really a placeholder to get this on the annual town meeting?
I already sort of have it earmarked as a,
And then they will be at the town meeting to answer questions and to support this document.
right, so I would put this on the warrant. I had a placeholder for this, and then after the meeting, if there are any changes, and I can get the changes in before we send it to print.
After the hearing.
Are we going to have to meet on this after the hearing? Do we want to approve this and send it forward to the planning board so they can say, hey, it was approved by the zoning bylaw study committee?
Yes, I mean, it has gone to them, but yes, let's do
So
that,
we need
just
a
a
vote.
formality.
I
Yes.
think
make
we
that
should take
motion.
one anyway.
Right. what we
Motion's
heard.
made by
Motion to
Scott,
approve.
Second?
second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Laurel, thank you for being here
Yeah.
and explaining that to us.
And then just a caveat. So this strip here is darker than this one here. That's because this is sort of separated within sub-districts. And so the darker color here is for multifamily. And then sort of like the lighter color, which is sort of this right here along South Ave, is for like townhomes and sort of more gentle forms of density, because the work group and some community members who I've spoken with were very concerned about having denser development along.
And
Do you know-
And along here is which?
So these would be sort of like multifamily,
Okay.
and this is sort of like townhomes along South Ave.
Do you know how wide the district is? Or what streets it brought into it? I can't tell by this.
Yep.
It's not very far.
Nope. So it's Pond, a couple of parcels on Essex, South
Wait,
Ave.
hold that up and show me. Because
So there's Essex,
Yep.
I think right here.
yep. And
Pond
then
Street
Pond.
right here.
Yeah,
South Ave right here. Rayner.
yeah.
There's one parcel, and then Franklin.
Well, what you pointed to at Franklin is not buildable.
Well, this
With the
one-
exception of 185.
Yeah, that's
85.
But
that's
it-
largely the one. Yeah.
Well, if you notice where all those dots are, that could also be on the wetlands map that it's a swamp. That's bare meadow.
Yeah, and that's
So-
the MBTA communities, which is why we had just ended up including it.
Which is what the MBTA, not to get sidetracked, a lot of these towns were freaking out over the amount of units. Well, the MBTA map, a lot of it isn't buildable land.
All right.
So
Is there any update on that? I think that was 401 South Ave, opposite the old firehouse. It's like brownfields where the
Oh, yeah.
Regal shoe used to be. Is
I
there?
remember when I was on the board, they looked into that. a long
they've been
time
looking
ago.
into that for 20 years.
Yeah, Lisa
No,
Green
down
had
here.
actually talked.
Where
to
Grossman's Lumberyard used to be. Now we're
Oh,
way back.
yeah.
Across the
That was
railroad
it?
That was a
track.
Grossman's
you've
Lumberyard.
got the
The
building
Bostonian,
Behind the old
behind
Regal,
the
yeah.
Bostonian here.
Next to the
Huge
trains.
lot.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a 21E issue. Right?
Somebody
Is that-
gave a report about that not long ago.
Right. So we've had some work done on that. We want to move forward. We decided to move forward with the tax title attorney because years ago when I was the treasurer, we brought it so far. We were about to foreclose, and they're like, "Don't.
Yeah, don't.
You'll own it." No, we're moving forward with foreclosure at this point, and then once land becomes ours, then there are all different avenues to receive grants over a few years.
When they wanted to foreclose, no one had looked into it. It's like, let's take this. No, I don't think you should do
No, brakes went on.
that. Yeah, the brakes get.
Well, there weren't any of the brownfield grants back then either.
It was
Right.
nothing.
But see,
Now
they
there's
are
a-
now.
there's
Really?
nothing. Let's
Wow.
just take
Clean
it.
it
I'm like,
up and make it
To
buildable.
clean it up and at least be able to put maybe
'Cause you
a
take
mixed
it, you
use
own
we
it.
had talked about on there.
Yeah.
Something, yeah,
I mean, that'd be huge.
right, it would be. So we're
Yeah.
looking at that as
Great
well.
spot for apartments.
We have one other item that I don't think that we touched.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jason. And this is the proposed amendment to section 240, 12.5, Board of Appeals. This was just one last item. To see if the town will vote to amend section 240-12.5, Board of Appeals of the Protective Zoning Bylaw of the Town of Whitman by deleting the last sentence in subsection E2 and replacing it with a new sentence as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. So there's the current text and the new text. Do you see that?
What?
Yeah, that's just like I think this is Mass General Law now or something like that.
Oh,
I
wait a minute.
remember saying,
Section
hearing that.
240, 12-5?
Yes.
12.5?
Yes.
Deleting the last sentence. Let me just read this for a second.
Yep.
So your permit won't expire in 2 years, it expires in 3 years.
Oh.
If you don't do anything.
Which makes all
better.
the sense in the world.
Which I'm
Right.
pretty sure that was
I think that they did change the
case
Mass
law
General
or
law.
something.
Yeah, because it was stupid.
It does say the 1 year and changing it.
It happened when there was the last financial debacle that somebody got their, units approved,
And then the
but couldn't get
funding,
financing or whatever else.
Oh, went
and
beyond.
then it expired, and then they'd have to do the whole thing, which made no sense.
And you have to go back to
You have
zoning.
to start at square one.
Okay.
And now we're,
Yeah,
I guess it's several $100s now that advertise every time in the
yeah,
in
it
the
made.
Brockton Enterprise.
But I think Mass General law changed that a while ago. It makes all the sense.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty sure we changed it in Duxbury before I left there. That's a long.
you were way ahead of us back then.
motion.
We had money.
I said.
Oh, you're
Second.
motion?
I'm making a
Second.
motion.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it. We got nothing else, right?
That's everything on the list. No, that was.
Motion
a
to
lot.
adjourn.
Second.
It's not debatable. All those in favor?
All right.
That was a good meeting.